Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Controversial Podcast. Today I'm joined with Tom Mccaffrey from my A-Level Government and Politics class.
Hello, good to be here.
Yeah. In this show, we'll be discussing either a philosophical or political issue. Today we'll be discussing Brexit and how it was promoted and portrayed by the media. Okay, so discussing this issue, we're going to split it into three sections. One is going to be newspapers, two is going to be televised news, and three is going to be online resources. Okay, so first of all, newspapers, as you know, they often have a bias. Is having a bias right? How does that impact the general public's view? And most importantly, how does it? Is it fair to have a bias? Is it morally correct? We're going to delve into that now.
Now, one of the big questions that people have is this fair to be looking at media that has such biases? But what I would ask is it in fact possible to write a story completely without bias? At the end of the day, these stories are all written by a specific person who would have a bias one way or another. Even if they try to eliminate it, it will be there in some sense. On top of that, there would be whole newspaper biases. The companies themselves are either pro one side or another, or to do different parties. Some good examples of this are the Daily Mirror, the Guardian and the Financial Times were all very pro-Remain during the Brexit debate. Opposed to this, the Daily Telegraph, the Daily Mail and the Daily Express were all incredibly pro-Leave.
Yeah. Of course, that divide in the media industry creates pressure on voters. And obviously, if you're more prone to reading The Sun, the Daily Mail or Daily Express, who are of course pro-Brexit, you're more likely going to vote pro-Brexit because you're seeing these messages about leaving constantly. You're being bombarded. And not only this, but that sort of power of the media is always replicated in general elections and other debates. So this isn't solely a Brexit thing, but it's a bit concerning seeing how much power that newspapers have on how people vote. An example of this would be we haven't had a Prime Minister that hasn't been supported by Rupert Murdoch in a while. That's how much influence that the newspapers have.
On top of this, you have to remember that a lot of people, when they read newspapers, when they first pick them up, they'll think, my father read this paper or my mother read this paper, I'll read it as well. Which would be a good example of how your parents' political views, though not directly, would...
Yeah, exactly. So, and you've got to think there that different classes and different areas of the country are more prone to different newspapers. For example, up north, especially in Liverpool, after the tragic Hillsborough disaster, not many Liverpublicans buy The Sun due to their reporting. So that basically isolates this area of the country and prevents them from getting the messages of certain newspapers, which creates a massive divide in north and south of the UK. Okay, now regarding the TV and that source of news, that news outlet, they tend to dramatise a lot of debates and political issues. So in the Brexit debate, during the beginning of it, there was Boris Johnson was making a big deal on what side he was going to take, as he was Mayor of London and was Conservative. They made a big issue about it, and they made it almost like a drama and turned it into almost like a TV show. It engaged the audiences to a point that it built up an underdog theme towards the Brexiteers, and it created quite a big divide in that sense.
Well, what you've got to remember, of course, is that this is still a TV show. They want people to watch and listen and take part in what they're providing. And Britain loves an underdog and loves a good story. So by providing this controversiality and this which side will you choose, they're driving up views.
And you could say that it's a good thing, because if they're engaging more people, they're more likely going to become more informed about the issue. So, dramatisation helps the entertainment value of the debate and makes it more engaging, increasing participation and possibly the vote turnout. This in itself, for the form of dramatisation, creates an element of comedy. Like Boris Johnson, the amount of silly stunts that he does, hanging off the zip line, going down, that adds more of the public sympathise and relate and find relief out of these politicians. And in this globalised age, people are more inclined to vote on an entertainment and relative value.
Itself has given rise to the more comedy styles of a lot of news shows. For example, shows such as Mock the Week or Have I Got News for You, while still providing news, also attempt to provide entertainment, which once again could allow more people to get involved and seek out, in itself could allow more people to get involved and seek out politics.
In opposition, these newfound comedy shows, and these don't hold back opinions and enforce a mainstream hegemonic view, kind of enforcing the standard, and could peer pressure voters into following the mould, in contrast to expressing their own possibly more controversial opinions, possibly silencing people and making them embarrassed. But it all depends on the source and the balance of news sources. Of course, with, like you said, Mock of the Week and Russell Howard's Good News for You, they offer more of a comedic value that, of course, engage more audiences to participate in their political systems. Go.
Now, one of the largest common consumptions of political media is on social media. This can take form in a variety of different forms, such as there are quite a lot of political podcasts or YouTube channels that would help to explain and simplify a lot of what is going on in politics. You can also find a fair amount of things on Facebook and Instagram and more common social medias, though this tends to be less in-depth and more propaganda-esque in nature, as it would be simple posts on, for example, Instagram, promoting one side or another in a particular debate.
Yeah, I mean, we're all familiar with the Twitter-like warriors that you see on issues. That it creates, again, more of a pressure towards the ideal thought process. This will convince people to vote a certain way and enforce the frequency they see these certain articles. It's the vocal few who have the most power, in contrast to the more popular, less vocal majority.
Now, this could of course be more of a double-edged sword. It does give these smaller groups a larger voice, but it also presents a microcosm of what everyone's opinions are. You could assume that one particular opinion is much more common than in fact it is in everyday life.
Not only that, in opposition, this could be seen as a positive thing. That we hear more about views that we otherwise wouldn't. These vocal minorities are making up for their lack of following via their increased pressure to discuss, making us more aware of their views. Not only this, but this has caused a increase in take mix of these minority of people. And an example of this is through Good Morning Britain and Piers Morgan's little screen that comes up saying the world's gone nuts. It's all because of this vocal minority that are enforcing and a lot more open up to discuss their views, that creates this feel that, oh, my view isn't being spread around as much, it's being dismissed, what's going on, the world's going insane. It creates that false impression, when in reality, if you've got a small opinion that isn't spread across, you're more likely going to try and persuade people to think like you, which the most powerful opinion wins a debate in most cases. Well, it should be anyway. Okay, I think we'll cut it off there as we're hitting the 10-minute mark, and this is going to be a bit of a smaller episode than normal, mainly because it's quite a brief issue, quite a niche issue. So I'm going to start cutting it off. This has been the Controversial Podcast, joined by
Tom Mccaffrey.
Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll be here again next week.